topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in today. I'm Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business Radio on W4CY.com, now Winning Business TV on Talk4TV.com, live streaming. In addition to Facebook at Winning Business Radio, as well as a lot of other channels, just do a search, you'll find them. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. I say this every week. It's the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and hopefully and certainly to be inspired by the successes of others. But you know, it's interesting. Virtually every successful person I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives or careers. So you hear this too. While we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. Today, my guest is Michael Spillane, commercial real estate attorney with Orsi Aroni Rothenberg Turner LLP. Here's his bio. Michael R. Spillane is an attorney with the Needham Law Firm. I'm going to read it again. Orsi Aroni Rothenberg Turner LLP. He's a member of the firm's real estate development practice and concentrates his practice in the areas of complex commercial real estate transactions, retail, office, and warehouse leasing, and land use and development. He's published articles in the New England Real Estate Journal. Mike grew up in Natick, Massachusetts with his parents and sister. He graduated from Natick High School in 1986 and earned his Bachelor of Science degree in finance from Boston College in 1990 and his JD cum laude from the New England School of Law in 1998. He was admitted to the Massachusetts Bar Association in that same year and was admitted to the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts in 1999. After graduating from Boston College, Mike worked in banking in the mortgage loan department of Natick Federal Savings Bank for 4 years. He then joined the law firm of Williams and Mann in Milford, Mass. As a legal clerk and started going to law school at night. After graduating from law school, he practiced for 7 years with that firm, Williams and Mann, focusing on his practice predominantly in the areas of commercial and residential real estate transactions, including leasing, real estate development, workouts, and foreclosures. Currently, Mike represents lenders relative to the closing of complex real estate transactions, as well as developers and franchisees regarding the purchase, financing, and leasing of retail office. That's two things: retail, office, warehouse, and industrial space throughout New England. He assists clients in the acquisition, development, finance, and leasing of commercial, office, and industrial properties, large apartment complexes, and retail shopping centers in Mass and New Hampshire. He also represents restaurant franchisees relative to their combined ownership of over 200 locations up and down the East Coast. Mike is licensed to issue title insurance policies in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. He also represents the owners of closely held businesses relative to their leasing, financing, and corporate planning needs. Mike is a past president of Easton Youth Baseball League and is the current chairman of the Town of Easton, Massachusetts Zoning Board of Appeals. He's a member of the Massachusetts Bar Association and the Real Estate Bar Association for Massachusetts. Mike and his wife Sherry have been married for 28 years and they have 3 children. Their oldest daughter graduated from the University of Arizona in 2021 and currently resides in Tampa, Florida. So does my daughter. Their son will be a senior marketing major in the Spillane College of Business at Penn State this fall, while their youngest daughter will be a freshman majoring in hospitality management at the University of South Carolina. And they have 2 dogs. Mike, welcome to Winning Business TV and Radio.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on.
Is it always as comfortable for you? And whenever anybody reads my bio, it's like, well, I did that. Yeah, I did that. It's kind of a long bio, but it's really good. So make you uncomfortable?
A little bit. Yeah.
We joked. I'm going to have all these hard hitting questions for Mike today. So tell us about your wife.
She is a special education teacher. She's the
Hmm.
sort of the rock that keeps the family together. I think you
Yeah,
probably hear that a lot from
no doubt.
guys that are on the show. So, um, no, funny story is she grew up in, or she started growing up in Natick, not too far from where I grew up. We never knew
Hmm.
each other. We're the same age. And then her family moved to Connecticut when we were both in third grade at the time. So, circle back after college. She went to high school with a girl that I was friendly with in college, and that's how
Hmm.
we wound up meeting and been together ever since. A year after we
That's great.
graduated from college,
I have a lot of relatives in Connecticut. Do you remember the town she moved to or where she lived?
she she grew up in Simsbury,
Okay. Yep. Mine were in
and her
Cheshire
sis.
and that area.
Okay, her family, her sister and their family live in uh, oh God, the name of the town's escaping me right now. It's closer to Hartford, but um,
Yep.
not too far.
And coincidentally, my the new grandbaby, right? My oldest son married a girl
Yep.
that he met in Boston through college from Hamden, Connecticut, which is right next to Cheshire. Just
Oh,
small
yeah.
world, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely.
So the oldest, I did see some pictures of graduation. She's in Tampa, graduated from Arizona. What's she doing?
She right now is waiting tables,
Hmm.
and making, unfortunately, more money than she's probably gonna make with her major, but
Yeah,
she has a passion for the environment and animals, and she went to
awesome.
school for environmental science and marine science minor, and,
Oh yeah,
figured Tampa's a great place to be for both of those, so, as she's looking to try and figure out what it is that she thinks she wants to do with the rest of her life. She's got a good job and she's paying the bills and she's off the payroll for the time being, which
that's
is
awesome.
nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And marketing major, your son.
Yeah.
See, that's what he wants to do is be in that field,
He
or he
wants
thinks.
he wants to do marketing. Yeah,
Yep.
he really wants sports marketing and he's got a
Mm.
great opportunity this summer. He's doing an internship for a company, um, getting into the NIL field,
Oh,
which is name, image, likeness, a new sort of in the last year or so. It's become more of an issue or more of a thing with college athletes and being able to make some money while they're in college, which
yeah,
obviously they never used
yeah.
to be able to do, not legally
Those new
anyway.
rules,
Yeah.
not
So,
cleanly and neatly. That's right.
no, no, exactly. So he had a great opportunity. He went down to the University of Georgia last weekend,
Hmm.
flew down overnight for the day. They signed one of the new running backs for the Georgia Bulldogs. The company he's working for, they flew him down, and I think he's got the bug. He liked the travel and
Yeah,
the rubbing elbows with some athletes and stuff.
for
So,
sure.
it's one of the two internships he's got this year, so or this summer. So, he'll figure something out. But it's definitely, if he has his way, he'll be in the sports industry somewhere.
That's pretty cool.
Whether or not he
One of my
goes to
one
law
of my.
school, and
Oh, okay. Is that a possibility
yeah,
for any of them?
yeah. Well, I mean, he's talked about wanting to maybe be an agent or try and get into that
Oh
field.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so he knows he'd have to go to law school for that. But
One of my closest friends is a Georgia alum, and every single day he posts some type of image on social media on Facebook that says, "Your daily reminder that the Georgia Bulldogs are the national champions." It's a cool environment, I guess. So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
we come from the Northeast. Not a lot of college championships up here, right? Not least not these days.
No, no, not in football, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe in hockey.
So the youngest is hospitality. That would be
She's Yeah,
I was
she's
going to say
gonna go
like
into she wants to go
resort
into
management or.
hospitality man resort management, hotel
Hmm.
management, wedding
Hmm.
planning, she's talked about. South Carolina has a great program for all of that, and, she's definitely very excited about it. Yeah, she wanted to go down south. Initially, she was looking closer to Tampa to be near her sister, but
Yeah.
um, this program and the school and the campus really fit. And she's already met a ton of kids and roommates and a bunch of kids online and doing Zoom calls and stuff like that. So she's very excited,
That's cool.
and we're
That's
excited
cool.
for her. Yeah.
So tell, I always like people to hear a bit of a guest's background. Tell people about the town of Natick, not history, but what's kind of the setting, what's it like to grow up there, and then
I
we'll
mean,
go from there.
it was sure. It was it's a pretty big town. I mean, it's not too far west of Boston. It's just past Wellesley, right on Route 9. You had all the
Hmm.
shopping and everything you needed. Natick Mall, Shoppers World was right there in Framingham, and so it wasn't like we were out in the sticks or anything like that. Um, Grew up in a small, modest ranch house, and
Hmm.
my mom's still there, and
Oh yeah.
walked to school through junior high, two schools right in the neighborhood. So, but it was nice. It was comfortable, and it was convenient. It was we could get into Boston easily, and um, I enjoyed it.
And did both your parents work?
Yep, my dad worked for Honeywell,
Oh yeah.
and he was a financial analyst for them for years and years and years. And my mom was a nurse at the hospital in Natick. So
Hmm.
yeah, both worked. My mom took some time off when we were younger, but she went back to work, and you know, um, we'd come home from school by ourselves and stuff
Same.
that doesn't really happen much today. But
Very much the same. My mother was a teacher,
yeah,
so she wasn't home much later than us, but we did get home first.
yeah.
So you majored in finance, but first, what led you that direction? Maybe it was dad. I don't know what were your early
It
interests,
was
and how did that lead you to both to a finance degree, but also to be?
so it was my dad. It was my dad's fault that I went to BC and was a
Okay.
finance major. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
my dad graduated from BC. My grandfather graduated from BC. So I was
All
third
right.
generation. We had season tickets to football since I was as can remember.
Yeah.
Remember going to some great games growing up, and wanting the just loving the school and everything. Um, he also sort of talked me into becoming a finance major. I wanted to go into business. I was kind of leaning more towards marketing myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
But his sort of philosophy was, finance gives you sort of a broader base, and you can apply that to anything, including marketing, if you wanted to get into that field. Turned out, I kind of had my eye set on law school at some point in the future, but I wasn't sure. So, but finance I thought was helpful and productive, and you know, my dad was right.
Well, you use some finance today, I'm sure.
Oh, sure,
At least
yeah.
understanding
Well,
transactions, right?
yeah. I mean, there's a basis for it. I mean, I
Mm.
don't necessarily use the complex stuff that financial analysts use, and that sort of
Right.
thing. But there's enough of a base of it, and I think with any kind of business degree, especially anything that's specialized, um, it gives you an opportunity to give yourself a good base of knowledge, and you know how to work, how to study, how to understand different things. So it was definitely helpful.
So I'm going to ask you just one or two more questions before the first break, but let's start with
Sure.
Natick Federal Savings Bank. Probably not even there anymore. Bought by somebody, right? I'm just guessing, but
At least once.
at least once. Um, how did you get that job? Was it a job you sought, or did it just happen like for many of us, the first job?
Yeah, so it was a combination. I worked there summers. I knew two people who worked there. Um, so I was able to get a job as a
Did you
teller
keep
when
your
I was in
wealth?
high school.
You kept your wealth there,
Yeah.
your personal wealth there?
Yeah, exactly. I think I still have a Christmas Club account book that I
The little
got from there.
passbook.
Yeah.
Now we're old, Mike. We're really old
Yeah,
by now.
exactly, exactly. So I was working there, and went to school.
Mm,
Um, was getting into banking. I interviewed with a bank down in New Jersey, and ultimately decided I didn't want to relocate on my own down to
mhm.
down to northern New Jersey. Although it might have been a great opportunity and experience, but I still, like I said, I had the law school thing in the back of my mind. So
Yeah.
I went back and I got the job, full-time position at the bank. So it was good. I
All right.
worked my way up, and it kind of gave me a basis for real estate. So sorry.
Well, I'm going to come back to that. We'll come back right to that. We'll take our first
Okay.
break. It's 1:15. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with attorney Mike Spillane.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Star, the king of cool and your host of the Jimmy Star Show, the entertainment radio show for all you cool and unique people looking to get a behind-the-scenes peek at what's going on in the entertainment industry. Listen in as me and my cool crowd of co-hosts bring you celebrity guests, new music, and the good times in fashion, entertainment, and pop culture. Right, everybody? Right! Tune in live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on W4CY.com.
Hey, this is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
Hey, this is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We are back with Mike Spillane, Orsi Aroni Rothenberg. I wanted to get it right the first time too. I had it right. Orsi Aroni Rothenberg Turner. I did. I'm trying to look this way instead of looking this way. So Natick Federal Savings Bank. You said it started. Yep. Gave you a little bit of flavor of real estate. How so?
So I was able to work in the mortgage department. So, it wasn't what I'm doing now, but it gave me an understanding of financing real estate.
And these are residential mortgages?
Mostly residential. I was dealing more with the residential side. The bank did do some commercial stuff, nothing overly complicated.
Yeah.
And I did have an opportunity to sort of, see a little bit of it and get a taste of it. But I wasn't necessarily sure what I wanted to do with once I did wind up going to law school, and I don't want to jump ahead, but at least it gave me a background that I was able to come back to later on and say, you know what, I kind of understand this, and I enjoyed it, and the differences in different types of real estate and so forth.
So talk about the transition from Natick Federal Savings to Williams and Mann, how that came about.
Okay, so that was an opportunity. You probably can't tell, but I used to have lousy teeth, and I had braces for longer than probably most kids have them, and then always had adjustments. So
I should have. I never did. I've actually considered doing it in life, but I get it.
I became very, very friendly over the years with my orthodontist, who happened to be very, very good friends with the Williams of Williams and Mann.
Okay.
So when I had the opportunity, or not the opportunity, when I finally decided to make the jump and I was going to go back to law school or go to law school, I just happened to be having lunch with him. He said, what are you going to be doing? I said, well, I'm going nights. I'm still working at the bank, and he said, well, let me call Jeff and see what he's got. And he made that call. He made the connection, and next thing I know, I'm working in Milford and traveling in nights to law school. 3-4 nights a week. So it was a fortuitous opportunity, but it worked out great.
See, get more out of your teeth than you expected.
Yeah,
It's not just the winning smile. So you were a legal clerk. Tell everybody what a legal clerk does in a law firm.
Probably the grunt work, the running around.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, so I would draft some documents for the attorneys. I was actually doing a lot of title work for us. So one of the attorneys in the firm was doing a lot of workouts with the FDIC. It was the mid '90s, mid to late '90s, and there were a lot of bank takeovers. There were a lot of foreclosures. So we did tons and tons of title work, and we represented the FDIC at the time, which was based in Franklin. And so I was running around quite a bit to the various registries, doing actual title exams and learning it from the ground up that way.
So give a quick tutorial on title work.
It's labor intensive, and it can be deathly boring, but it's one of those things that you have to pay attention to it. So every document has a prior, or every deed, I should say, has or should have a prior reference. So somebody who sells the property is called the grantor. Somebody who buys the property is called the grantee, and down the bottom of the deed is the deed reference to where the grantor or the seller took title. And back in those days, now you can do everything online, but back in those days, it was literally running from one book to a next, and then bringing the books to the copy machine and making, copies. I walk in with like cargo pants filled with quarters, and
it's glamorous. It's very glamorous.
Yeah. Oh, very, very. I loved getting out. I loved being able to not sit in the office all the time. It was, and I enjoyed it. I mean, there are definitely people that do it for a living, and they're very successful at it. I didn't necessarily want to do that, but it was always fun trying to put the puzzle together. So once you what we call chaining back title to at least 50 years prior to when the time that you're at, then you have to go through the indexes, and you have to look for that party's name or names in the indexes to see what did they put a mortgage on, was there a lien on, was there a foreclosure, was there a tax taking, anything that could be recorded at the registry. And then you take the title exam, you bring it back, you try and piece everything together, and that's the basis for issuing a title insurance policy.
And title insurance is necessary for a buyer. Why?
Hopefully it's never necessary, but it's I will never tell a client not to get title insurance. So there's two types of title insurance. One's for a lender's policy, ensuring the lender's interest in the property when they put a mortgage on the property, and the owner. And as I tell clients all the time, this is your biggest investment you're probably ever going to make, for most people, especially with residential. To the extent you've got somebody that's done title and they miss something, and believe me, it's possible to do that. Things get indexed improperly, or an examiner can just miss something. If there's a deed out in the middle of your chain and the examiner doesn't catch it, and somebody issues you a title policy, you've got a claim you can make with the title insurance company, and it protects the value of your home, the equity that you've built up in your home. So it's rare that people need it for something that extreme, but it's like any insurance policy. It's important, or it's crucial if you need it. And if you need it and you don't have it, it's not worth a few $1,000s or whatever it winds up being at the outset to protect what is, in theory, most people's biggest asset. And
does it apply the same on a commercial property?
Yeah, I mean, it's title insurance is the same regardless of the type of
Hmm.
property. Different coverages occur. So when we do a commercial transaction, there are different endorsements that a lot of times will get added to a commercial transaction that aren't necessarily part of a residential transaction. The easiest one is a zoning endorsement. So um, most residential loans don't require them because most residential properties are zoned for residential use. So it's one of those assumed risks that everybody takes and so forth. But with commercial, when you've got a property that's in a weird zone, or the bank or the lender wants to be assured that the use that the borrower is going to be using the property for is allowed in the area that the property's in. That's an endorsement that we typically provide on most commercial deals.
So we're going to come back to some technical stuff like that after this next break. But I want to
Okay.
talk about the 7 years you were at Williams and Mann. You got a lot of experience, and you started law school. So what was the decision? Tell us about the decision to go to law school.
So, like I said, I had been thinking of it a
Yep.
little bit in high school, a little bit in college. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Maybe the had I taken a job in banking in New Jersey, my path would have been different. It would have been
Yeah.
a bigger bank, a different area, and I might have been, moving up the sort of the corporate ladder. But where I wound up at a small bank in a small town,
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of places to go. So part of it was uh, sort of me just deciding that I probably wanted more out of
Yeah.
my college degree and my career. And so after getting the experience, I decided I'd go back. By that point, my wife and I had been married already,
Hmm.
and or actually just got married just before I started law school, but we were dating and planning our wedding. So um, it wasn't ideal for me to just go back full time to school, for three
Yeah.
years. Going nights is just an extra year, so we talked about that, and I wound up getting the job with Williams and Mann and going nights for 4 years.
How much did that job help you in law school? The
Um,
experience.
I think the practical experience, some classes it did.
Yeah.
Um, Commercial paper, not to bore everybody who's listening, but there are UCC types of transactions, but they talk about promissory notes and that sort of thing. That's sort of practical experience that I was
Hmm.
getting at the law firm.
Yeah.
Constitutional law had nothing to do with what I was doing. Rarely, although I did do some litigation work at that firm, evidence was more of a textbook type of class as opposed to real world. What can you do or not do in a
Hmm.
Massachusetts courtroom? So
Hmm.
um, some of it translated, some of it didn't. But but it, to the extent that it did, it certainly was helpful being sort of in the legal world and in a law firm. And I certainly had people I could bounce questions off of too, which was nice.
One more question before the break. You talked about foreclosures and workouts. Define a workout.
So that was typically when the bank went back to the borrower and decided or tried to not foreclose on the property. So the one thing banks never want to do, they don't want to own property. That's not what they do. Their goal is to loan money, make interest, and get the loan
Hmm.
repaid. They don't want
Hmm.
the property. They don't, especially a commercial property that needs to be operating
Yeah.
to make money. Certain real estate, residential, if it's foreclosed on, the bank can sell it and presumably make some money back. But the goal of the workout was to try and get the borrower to sort of meet the bank halfway, and vice versa, and get the bank to meet the borrower halfway, and do an actual workout where they could keep their home, keep their business, keep the property, uh, and
Maybe
and
restructure the
still
loan in
continue to
some
make
way.
payments, restructure the loan,
Yeah.
lengthen the term,
Hmm.
lower the payment. maybe lower the interest rate. I mean, the interest rates were a lot higher back then too, so that was they had more room to work with. So
Yeah, 11%.
yeah,
Right around that neighborhood.
These days it's 3 and 4%. You don't have a lot of room to
Yeah.
a lot of wiggle room to do a workout now, but they still do. But
All right, we're going to come back and we will talk more about commercial real estate, more in the, I don't want to say technical, because as you like to say, I don't want to bore people. I think it's interesting. So, but we're going to get more into the work you do now. But we will be back in just a couple of minutes with attorney Mike Spillane.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show? Well, W4CY Radio makes dreams come true. You can be a radio personality on the #1 ranked internet radio station in West Palm Beach, Florida. We can be heard in 105 countries and all U.S. states. Promote your business, earn up to $10,000 per month and more. It's all up to you. Have fun and be heard. Call 561-506-4031. That's 561-506-4031. Start your radio show now.
This is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, this is Johnny Three Tears from Hollywood Undead, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
I do whatever it takes to make it break through. Anything I'm face to face with, it's true.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We are back with Michael Spillane, Orsi, Aroni, Rothenberg, Turner, LLP. Boom.
Nice.
With no net. One more question about Williams & Mann as I thought about it during the commercial. Sure. What was your most important lesson learned or takeaway from that 7 years?
That's an
Could be
excellent
a lot of
question.
things. But what's one that comes to mind?
Yeah, probably to rely on the expertise of people around you. Starting off when you're young, you have a tendency to kind of assume that you know what you're doing and can sometimes branch out when you probably shouldn't. And I had good mentors and good people around me that were always willing to offer advice. But the lesson was use them and ask. Sometimes when you're in the position of having younger people, and we have interns and people in my office now, I don't want to necessarily assume that they need or want me to be telling them stuff all the time, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that they have, or sit down with them for 10 or 15 minutes and go over something, or it doesn't even have to be work related, but my biggest thing was always use the people around you, the experience that they have, and ask questions, even if you disagree with it. I mean, I think it's important to get different aspects and different viewpoints from people.
That's good. It's a good one. All right. Tell us when and really why or how you made it over to the new firm that you've been with for many years.
Yeah. So
the current firm.
You want to try the name again?
Orsi, Aroni, Rothenberg, Turner. I can even
Nice.
say it in a provisor's meeting now without notes.
You probably can, yeah. Um, so after 7 years, so the firm I was with at the time, Williams and Mann, the two named partners decided to go in a different direction. They split up, and I stayed with one of the partners. And I got to the point where I was doing too many things. I had it was more of a general practice. I wasn't just
Mhm.
doing real estate. And unfortunately, I was doing certain aspects and working on certain aspects of the legal field that I wasn't all that excited about.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I was doing litigation, which was fine, but it's definitely a different mindset. And I'm just not built that way to
Mhm.
be able to live that life day in and day out. Which is funny because it's probably why I decided, why I was thinking of going to law school when I was in high school and so forth. Nobody thinks they want to go to law school so they can be a tax attorney. So um,
Sitting
at that
behind
age,
piles of
but
paper.
yeah, but it's so stressful. I mean, there's stress in every aspect of the
Yeah.
legal field, but I just felt, that the stress in getting through litigation was difficult. I was doing a lot of domestic law. Again, kudos to the people that do that for a living.
Mm.
It's absolutely essential, but
Mm.
it's draining to say the least.
Yeah.
And like I said, I always liked doing the real estate, whether it was doing the title work or development or going to zoning hearings. Um, anything like that, I really did enjoy, and it was it all sounds like it's the same, but it's different. If you're doing
Mm.
a loan transaction, it's different from doing a development or permitting or something like that. But um, so I got to the point where I was being spread thin, and I decided I'd start looking to see if I could find something a little bit more tailored to what it was I wanted to do.
Mhm.
I didn't really want to go into Boston. I sort of did the reverse thing that most law school students decide they want to do. They want to start in Boston, build a practice there, and then branch out to the suburbs. Well, I
Yeah.
started in the suburbs, further out in the suburbs, and I tried to move closer to Boston without actually going in there. And it was fortuitous that I wound up here 16 years ago. They were the firm was looking for somebody to bring in the real estate department. It was all attorneys that had started off in Boston and decided that they didn't want the commute
Mm.
anymore and the stress and
Mm.
the overhead and the expense, and you know they wanted to bring Boston experience and Boston um, attorneys out to the suburbs. So we started. They were in Wellesley at the time, um, and just I applied for the job and heard back, and we had a great interview, and it's been a great opportunity and experience ever since.
I meant to ask, but this is a good time. When did you move to Easton, and did that have something to do with it? Were you commuting from Easton at the time?
Um, yes, I can't. Yes, I was. I was. So we started. So when my wife and I first were getting married, we bought a condo in Canton,
Mhm.
which was convenient. My parents were still in Natick. Her parents were living down the Cape at the time, so it was kind of in between. Um, and Canton wasn't bad. It was jumping on 95 to
Yep,
495. It
right
was a
there.
half an hour, 35-minute drive, but it was no
Yep.
traffic. So I certainly didn't start coming to Needham to shorten my drive, but
Yeah.
um, there's no good way to get to Needham from Easton. But we wound up in Easton because we had met friends, while we were in Canton, and they were
Yeah.
moving to Easton, and we started looking for houses sort of in the Walpole Norwood area. And they said,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah.
you should look in Easton. It's great and really nice." And it was close to where we were. We liked the town. It was a good school system, and so that's how we wound up there. So
All right, I wasn't gonna ask this, not that I'd even thought about it. Didn't even occur to me to ask this, but I'm gonna ask just a fun question. Shovel City is what they call, Easton, right? Or Shovel
yep,
Town, right?
yes,
Um,
yep.
Oliver Ames, tell us that quick little 2 minutes of history.
So the Ames family, Oliver Ames was. I'm not going to know the whole history, so
Yeah, no,
don't hold
I
me
wouldn't either, but
to
yeah.
it. But the Ames family started a shovel shop, and back in World War One, I believe it was, and they were literally making shovels for, um, the country, and there's a long history of Ames in Easton.
Mhm,
Oliver Ames was governor of the Commonwealth of
mhm,
Massachusetts at one point,
mhm.
and yeah, so it, you try and explain why you're the shovel town
Yeah.
to people, and it's not they don't get all that excited, but there is a pretty cool history to it.
It's that family's wealth, really, that family fortune made from
Oh yeah,
shovels, right? It's kinda
yeah,
just one
yeah,
of those funny things.
yeah. No, it's
All right,
crazy.
so let's get into some of the not transactions per se. Define you mentioned complex commercial real estate transaction. It's not buying a single family or multifamily home. It's not buying a, let's say, a standalone building. What makes a commercial real estate transaction complex?
So one of my clients does or looks for. This is just an example, but one of
Yeah.
they do apartment complexes.
Mhm.
So they've done both development of new ones and acquisition of existing ones.
Mhm.
And they're always, if you're doing a development, you've got so many different things that you need to be involved in. So there's permitting, there's
And it takes forever,
yeah, they'll take,
right?
they can take
Multiple
the
years.
one I'm thinking of took, once they got it to the point where they were sort of ready to go and the town was on board, it still took 18 months.
Wow.
So, and that was just to get through the whole permitting process.
Mhm.
Then construction is another, 2 years or so. Um, but you've got all sorts of different things. You've got surveys, so you get a survey of the property. You've got the title work that you've got to review and make sure it complies. You've got permitting issues. I had 3 hearings on a sign, just the sign at the front
Mm.
entrance, because the town that it was in was
Yeah.
very, very particular about what they wanted and what they didn't want.
Welcome to New
So we've
England,
got
right?
this, yeah, we've got this multi-million dollar development that's going to
Yeah.
provide housing to the area, and dealing with 6 people that have have and and they couldn't even all get on the same page as to what they wanted. So it took about 4 months just to get the sign approved at the the front entrance. So
And this is all
there's all that
assuming
kind
that
of stuff.
neighbors and, people in the town or the area don't have a problem with the development. That's a whole
Right,
'nother
right.
set
So
of challenges,
oftentimes
right?
there's, yeah, yeah, and exactly, and so the developers typically will be, um, they try and assist the town and the neighbors with
Mhm,
upgrades to the area.
mhm.
Whether it's trying to put in a new traffic signal at a particularly difficult intersection that a development is going to, sort of compound the difficulties there because they're bringing in so many new people, or
Parking's
things
always
like
a
that.
question.
Parking's always an issue. That was one we
Mhm,
we we contributed on this same project. We contributed a parking lot for area residents to use
mhm.
for permit, resident permit parking. It's just a small lot, but it's little things like that, and you've always got to sort of think of those things and offer them up and discuss with the town. So,
And you do a lot with franchisees, one, uh, concept in particular, but, what unique needs do franchisees have?
um, so it depends on the franchisee. So the one you're referring to, um, you know, we I we represent actually 4 different franchisees within the same industry.
Mhm,
Um, some are a little bit more skilled than others,
mhm.
um, and typically they all have, long-standing relationships with the franchisor, um, and have done, multiple locations over the years. But I work with other franchisees, and they don't know what they don't know. So I just recently, just within the last year, I've worked with two separate new franchisees getting into the coding world. So they're doing franchise agreements with it would happen to be with the same company, and
Hmm.
just sort of walking them through the franchise agreement, and helping them understand what it is that they're sort of getting themselves into. They go into this, these particular clients went into this saying, well, we can teach this, we can run this business, and there's a whole back to that they didn't necessarily understand. And you get the franchise disclosures that can be 60 pages long, and they're just not necessarily sophisticated enough to understand that. So,
Mm.
walking them through all the different royalty fees and the training and the advertising fees and so forth, it's helpful, um, for them, certainly.
And it seems that depending on the franchise, only certain locations will do,
Yeah. So,
or
like, we
types
have
of
clients that,
locations, right?
um, in what sense?
Like if it's
I
a
guess.
restaurant, it's got to be you would assume it would be high traffic. If
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah,
something that's
yeah.
right.
Right. So a lot of our clients have done like Dunkin' Donuts, and those are
Right.
definitely areas. So they, and it depends on the franchisor. With Dunkin', they pretty much let the especially the experienced franchisees try and locate the location that they want to go into. But there is oversight, and they will look and they will check for traffic, and see, is there parking, is there room for a drive through, what kind of lease terms can you get.
Hmm.
They always review the lease, and that sort of thing, and they always have final say on whether or not they want to move forward with a particular
Yeah, I was going to
location.
ask if they can say no to a particular lease.
Absolutely. Yep,
That's all.
absolutely. If they
This
think
is
that
all
if the
pre.
terms are,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've done deals where we go through, and the lease just doesn't get approved for whatever reason, and I don't know if
Wow.
it's ultimately doesn't necessarily trickle down to us, but I don't know if it's because the the terms are particularly onerous from their perspective, or it's not long enough. You know, they don't
I
want
would
a 5-year
assume.
lease.
Yeah, I would assume they're looking out for the success of and best interests of. Yes, they're protecting themselves too, but the franchisee, because ultimately, if the franchisee is successful, they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think a lot of times their biggest concern is the brand, but
Okay,
in that sense, the
that makes sense.
franchisee is representative of the brand. So if the franchisee fails, that's not a good look from their perspective either.
Right. Right.
And so to that extent, yes, they want the franchisee to be successful.
Yeah. How often do you see a McDonald's close?
It's funny.
Right.
There's one in Easton that closed like 10 years ago, and it's still the
Really?
only one I've ever seen close. Yes,
That's crazy. Somebody
they
died or
boarded
bad
it up one
management. That's
day. I
so
said,
rare,
"That
though.
never happened." Yeah,
I
that
know.
never happens.
All right, I want to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Still from the advice perspective, but what's the best advice you've given your kids so far? Because your kids are just,
Um,
they're getting into their professional lives. One is, the others are on their way.
yep. Ask questions, don't be late. Those are the two biggest things I always say. Don't assume you know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Always ask questions, even if you think it's a dumb question, and don't ever be late.
really good.
Somebody said to me the other day, nobody's going to know if you work until 9 o'clock at night, but they're going to know if you walked in at 8:05 in the morning.
That's right. That's
So,
right. In my
do work
20s,
hard.
yeah, in my early 20s, I was late all the time, and it didn't. I just thought, I'll make it up. It's funny you said that because I didn't realize the reputation harm it was doing. I also didn't realize the aggravation and the disrespect that I was causing. It's just one of those funny things. I'm glad I'm over that, long, long, long over that, but, I
I
hate
think
being
you've
late.
made up for it.
I think so, I hope so. Um, let's see, what are you most proud of at this point in your career?
Professionally,
Yeah,
I think just getting to where I am now, being
yeah,
established. Um, they call it the practice of law because you're always learning something new. You're always trying to get better. But I think in the end, I've probably I don't want to say I've exceeded my expectations of where I'm at in my career, but I'd like to say I've at least met them, and I've done well for myself. I feel like I provide good service to my clients. I've been able to maintain a fantastic relationship at the firm I'm at for 16 years now. So,
Yeah.
I think that's probably what I'm most proud of.
All right. Final question is probably the easiest one. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
The website's on the chat. Phone number 781-239-8900, or my email address at
say that phone
781-239. Yep. Phone number 781-239-8900. And my email address is mspillane, Spillane, at oarlawyers.com.
Fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for being here. I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. This was a blast. I had a great time. Appreciate it.
I'm glad you were here. You're welcome. And thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. As you know, or most of you know, this is a show about business and business challenges. If you've got concerns about the growth of your company, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio. You can drop me a note. Kevin@winningbusinessradio.com is one of the easiest email addresses. Our company is Winning Incorporated. We're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not right for everybody, but maybe we should talk. Thank you to Engineer Juan for another job well done. We'll be back at it next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to join us then. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You have been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.